Every photographer has a camera on their camera list that they're gushing over, and mine was the Mamiya RB67. But now that I have it, I'm not sure if it's the perfect fit for me. If you're watching this, you might be just like me, wanting this legendary camera. By the end of this video, I'll give you some information that will either make you expedite your shipment or put the 600 back in your wallet. And if you're having trouble loading the camera, don't worry. By the end, I'll show you that too. Let's start off with the positives. The Mamiya is great for slowing you down, and that's because of its 10-shot limit and then also needing an external light meter. This makes you think a little bit more, and it lets you look at your surroundings and truly take in what you want to snap for this photo. My first example is the burger joint. When taking this photo, I need to have in mind that my waist viewfinder is inverted. So a little turn to the left will throw off your composition entirely. Using the bellow when it comes to the focus and making sure that you're focused on the right area, which is very, very important because once again, those limiting shots. And then on top of that, looking into it is a lot harder, even when you have the magnifying aspect open for your viewfinder. Even though I know now looking into the file that this shot didn't have the best focus, I think that the composition was kind of strong with the wiring over top, filling up enough of that negative space that it's breaking it down, then having the burger joint centered. And luckily for me, there were no cars driving by in the back, and I waited long enough that there was nothing in the forefront. A similar shot is my Green Stop dispensary image, where I have the building in the center, having a bit of green of the grass at the bottom and the sky opened up at the top. A very simple shot, but I think that once again, the thought process of moving a lot slower, waiting for cars to come out of the lane, waiting for people to walk out of the shot, all speaks to the process of this bigger, slower camera, which is really enjoyable at times. But my favorite shots that I've found so far are from Coney Island. There was tons of people walking around. There was a bunch of color and a bunch of rides all mixed together. So it was a great spot to test its street photography, even though it's not what it's built for. So the fun begins with the plane ride. And what was so fun about this is having multi-layered subjects. So as you can see at the bottom, we have line goers waiting for the ride themselves. If you move up a little bit higher, we have the actual planes, but if you look closely, we also have a dad and his son or brother or whoever it might be with him in the ride. And timing this perfectly was a bit difficult because I had the people down at the bottom, they weren't moving, but trying to find that second emphasis in that moving shot, worried about the light meter, worried about the lighting overall, making sure I took out the dark slide, were all aspects that made this more challenging, but it made it more fun as well. And then this leads to the next picture because as you can see in the background is the Cyclone roller coaster. And here goes my trusty and maybe overly simple composition that I love so much, having your subject in the middle with trees or tree branches coming from the top and swooping in, cutting up that negative space once again. I took a lot of shots when it came to this because I just couldn't figure out where I wanted the roller coaster to be, and I finally got one. I say that this is my favorite image from the day, but the one thing that I wish wasn't a part of it was the parking sign down at the bottom of the image. I couldn't go over there and rip it out the ground, so it had to stay there, and I didn't feel like using some digital AI thing to fix a film photo at least. But another positive other than the detail that you get from a medium format and the color from the beautiful film is honestly the physical process of using the camera. When it comes to advancing the lever, when it comes to pressing the shutter and hearing that clop, or flipping over your magnifying glass to look into the waist viewfinder, it's all just a well put together machine that makes you feel like you're changing every single aspect by doing one motion. Even rotating the back is really interesting and easier on some models than others, but the physical tactile feel of this camera is unmatched. But this first impressions video can't be positive the entire time because the camera is not perfect. But no camera is perfect, and that's very important to think about. You'll hear this in every single review, every single first impression. It's the weight. This camera really is heavy. That is not a joke. That is not something that people are exaggerating or being lazy about. This camera is a workhorse. But the one thing that I will say to counteract this is that it's a studio camera. It wasn't meant to be taken out to Coney Island. It wasn't meant to be a running gun camera. It was meant to be in a studio, at very least just on a tripod. So it is heavy, but it's the way that we're using it as well. When you change that viewfinder from waist level to a prism, now it's really heavy. I don't think it matters if it is studio or not, because you're adding extra weight on top of that, which makes it that much more beefy. But it just depends on how you like to shoot and how tall you are, for the fact that you need that viewfinder change to begin with. And another aspect that you hear about across all formats, not just medium, is the price. The price of film, the price of developing, the price of scanning. Once you actually become a part of it, it is kind of ridiculous. The price being so high, there being so many different levels of scanning. Honestly, some developers are not good when it comes from the standpoint of they're excellent for 35mm, no problems at all. But then you switch over to medium and it's almost like they don't know how to do the same thing anymore. I understand that there's probably different technicalities and all this other stuff, but you have to not only find someone who is good at developing film and scanning film, you need to make sure that they also specialize, not do, but specialize in medium format for you to get a product that you truly enjoy. And the last thing, it's a minor detail. It's the light meter. It depends on what model you're using. It depends on what viewfinder you're using about having the light meter a part of the camera. But no matter what, it is a factor that you don't have to worry about digital or some 35mm formats. But it's also a part of the process, honestly. It becomes fun. I'll show you pictures, or maybe I've already have, of me messing it up. So when you do get it right, it's 100% rewarding, but at the same time goes back to that money, that risk and reward. If any of those negatives rubbed you the wrong way, there's a few more options that I want to suggest to you, just to see if you still want to stay with medium format or you want to go back to 35. So first off, I want to start with the Mamiya 645. We're talking about smaller size here. You'll have a smaller negative, but it's still much better than the 35. So you still have a lot of quality there. You still have your extra shots overall, so you don't have to have a new roll so often. But to highlight what you're giving up here is that higher quality, and then it's just simply not as cool. It is still very nice. It's still from a trusted brand, but it's just not the RB, which if you're smart won't bother you at all, but I don't know. So another one I've been looking at is the Pentax 645D. And the cool thing about it is that it's digital. You get unlimited shots, and then if it matters to you, it has a CCD sensor. I don't fully know what that means, but it's beloved. The things that you're giving up though are the fact that this is a much older digital camera, so it still has its quirks and is slow from what I've seen. It being older is a big thing, and then it's also a bit more expensive because it's more niche in a way. And lastly, 35mm. I mean, it's still outstanding. Especially if you have a good picture. It's a good picture no matter what format it's on. If you're worried about shots, if you're worried about weight, if you're worried about overall experience, to be honest, it sounds like you might want to stay with the 35. And I definitely have a 35 as well. So I only bring the big girl out when I need her, but you might just want to stay with 35, and that's okay. And for those who need help loading the camera, let's figure this out together. All right, guys, so I have my 160 portrait film here, and I'm just gonna load it up in my Mamiya RB. You have this little metal lever down here that you pull, opens up the door. What I didn't know at first is that you don't have to take the entire back off. You just take out this piece right here. Your spool will typically be on this side because you just finished a roll. Then you move it over here. But I already moved mine over here last time, so it's already here. I'm just going to put this in here and show you. You hold down this pin here to allow you to place it. If not, there won't be enough space for you to put it in there. So now I've lined up the bottom and the top. It is locked in. I'm pulling the black, as you can see, around. I am placing it into that spot that I spoke of earlier with this slit here. And then while you have it all lined up, you're going to try to advance it. It's caught, so that's how you know it's in there. Just to show you again, the white, you bring the black all the way around, you place it through this slit here, then you advance the lever. You're going to be looking for the black arrow to come up here and match it up with this white one down here. So there goes my black arrow. It's not quite there yet. It's there now. So now I can stop. So now it's fully loaded. I don't need to do anything else when it comes to this piece here other than putting it back in my camera. Like I said, I have this here. I'll place it inside and try to line it up. It's now falling in. You shut the door. You hit that metal tab that we opened it up with initially, and now you're all loaded. So if I take off this gigantic prism so I can show you, you can now see my little S right there. So the way that I can get past that S is by continuing to crank the top until that one comes up. That little red indicator has went away because there was a 1 and then that red indicator. I'm ready to shoot my first shot and everything's all loaded up. Now that you've heard my first impressions, do you feel good about the Mamiya? Do you feel bad? Do you want to jump into the system or are you gonna go a different direction? Just let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe. If you didn't like either of those, watch another video and let me try to convince you. I'm out, y'all. Peace.